Home on the range, but sadly out of coffee. But that's all right. We'll get through it anyway. We may be out of coffee. Hopefully you have some, but we got a lot of sound to play. Hold on. Let me put this down. We wait for people to come in. Hold on. Live stream on 9/19. Back in the comforts of home. Back to a great microphone. Good internet connection, which will be getting better on Monday. We'll talk about that in a second. And just great to be with all of you. It's a big Trump day. Listen, didn't mean to make it all Trump all the time, but when the guy dominates a news cycle like he did yesterday, it's going to happen. Let's see what happened. He got the big endorsement from the Teamsters, went to New York. Looks as though he has flipped successfully the state of Pennsylvania, at least according to Nate Silver once again, not to get too heavy into the polls, but that's good news for him. And then, of course, how do you celebrate? You go on Gutfeld. Big day. But let's talk about it. Oh, also, by the way, we got our first submissions for our Name This live stream and turn it into a podcast. And they're fantastic, and I love you for doing this. Some of them are actually awesome, too, so we'll talk about that as well. Let's get into the stuff. Big T takes NY. It was Trump in New York yesterday, but when you appear at the Long Island, the Nassau Coliseum, it's nice to have the endorsement, not the full endorsement, but really it's the endorsement of the union members of the Teamsters to go in with you. They asked him as he was headed to the stage in Long Island, New York, what he thought about that endorsement yesterday. This is what he said.
Mr. President, any reaction to the Teamsters' decision not to endorse?
No, it's a great honor. They're not going to endorse the Democrats. That's a big thing. And this is the first time in, I guess, 50, 60 years that that's happened. Democrats automatically have the Teamsters. They took a vote, and I guess I was at 60% or more. And that's a great honor. I mean, it's really, I've had a lot of Teamsters work for me, a lot of the concrete trucks. They built all these buildings that you see in New York City.
They know him. They know what he's all about. And really, even though this isn't an official endorsement from the Teamsters union organization, which is huge, it may not be as big, if you're from the Northeast like I am, or from, the South or the West Coast, maybe not. This is a massive, massive deal, though, for the Rust Belt states. For Pennsylvania, which we've all talked about. We just talked about it. For Ohio, parts of Michigan, West Virginia. What the Teamsters union members say is actually massive. It's a big, big deal. And he's right about that. Here's how it broke down. I guess they do an electronic member poll of their union members. Here's how it broke down, according to them, which is a different story than 2 months ago where they did the same thing, by the way. Trump, 59.6%. Harris, 34.0%. That's a big lead, according to the Teamsters union members. Wait a minute now. It wasn't that long ago we actually had the DNC. Remember that in Chicago? Didn't Sean Fain, the Teamsters union president, didn't he tell us on stage that Kamala Harris is their guy? I distinctly remember that happening. Well, let's go to it. Here
Kamala Harris is one of us. She's a fighter for the working class. And Donald Trump is a scam.
She's a fighter for the working class. Right. Well, we got some news for you, Sean, because this just came in, and Trump is exactly right about that. This is the first time in about 3 decades that the Teamsters will not endorse a candidate. A blow to the Democratic Party, as reported by none other than the Washington Post. It's a bigger deal than, if you're not a union member, you're not a Teamsters member, you may be thinking, oh, what's the big deal, really? It's not official. No, it is. It actually matters. What they say matters. And I think it's even bigger than that if you kind of read into it a little deeper. Because what we're seeing here, just talk to regular people, talk to all of these, or actually watch all of these street interviews with college kids and what they say. I was telling you the other day, just around the late 20s, early 30s, friends of my nieces and nephews, as I was at a family event, that they kind of get it. It's a lot different than it was before. It seems like it's flipped around, not with all of them, but a lot more of them get it, if you will. And now look at this with union members, which you never saw before. In fact, like it says there, it's been the first time in 3 decades. What if it's reported correctly in history? And it may not be. It may not. There's always a chance. A lot of that depending on what happens in November. But if this is reported correctly, what we're looking at right now, what they'll write about is some kind of a big flip where it became the Republicans, and this would not have happened if Trump hadn't run and won once and maybe win twice. Maybe. The Republicans have become the party, or at least are well on their way, of the working class. And the Democrats are the party of big corporations, the war machine, big pharma, and censorship. This is always and war. This is flipped exactly 180 from what it was before. Exactly 180. This is the most solid proof we've seen of that so far. With the union members, the guys that actually count, the guys and girls that actually count, endorsing Trump. It's a huge deal. Not officially endorsing, just supporting for sure. All right, but it was Trump taking the stage in Long Island, New York. He still swears that he's going to win New York. I don't know about that. Do you think he will? Maybe. I will say this. I think he's going to make some big inroads. I think he's going to shock the world and how it turns out. And speaking of a turnout, this is what it sounded like at Nassau Coliseum on Long Island, New York yesterday as he took the stage. You'd listen to this and you'd go, well, that's what, Billy Joel coming back home. Maybe it's a Bon Jovi show. Oh, no, it's Big T. Dead giveaway here at Lee Greenwood. You're not going to hear that at a Billy Joel show. But there you go, 20,000 inside, approximately. Now, I have a friend who lives in Long Island. He was telling me on Facebook last night, and I had heard this actually reported as well. Maybe Fox had it, somebody else, maybe even CNN. There were reportedly, word on the street is, 80,000 ticket requests for this thing to see Trump at Nassau Coliseum. Now, you think about this, and you think about some of the rallies he's had, and also the response he's had in New York before. Remember the Bronx rally like 4 months ago? Does it sound plausible? It does to me. 100% it does to me. That was massive for those people to turn out. Granted, a lot of that is, it's not like if you live in Florida or Ohio or he's in Pennsylvania every other week now, which he should be. It's not like you get to see him all the time. It's pretty rare that he actually gets to Long Island. But, and there was another one too. Remember that one in New Jersey that was on the beach? People waited out overnight, over 24 hours in some cases, and it was pretty cold because it was late spring. Massive turnout. If he doesn't win those states, it's going to come close. He's getting closer and closer to turning that thing around. What do you do if you celebrate a big day in New York, getting the Teamsters members endorsement? You getting the big rally in Nassau Coliseum? Well, you make an appearance on Gutfeld, which was actually taped earlier in the day. But he was on Gutfeld, and it was actually pretty good. I've been a big fan of Greg Gutfeld for a long time. I think he does a great job with what he does. And it's exactly, listen, a lot of us have gotten mad at Fox News and their programming over the years. And we all remember the Arizona thing where they called Arizona like a day before the election. All right, little exaggeration there. But to put Gutfeld on and to do a kind of show that is actually entertaining and talking about this stuff was a brilliant move, and he's really good at it. So he asked Trump this question yesterday.
If they had told you that the shooter was there, would you have tried to take him out with your 3-wood?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. If I knew. Actually, the Secret Service did a great job. They saw the barrel of a gun, big gun.
Yeah.
And it came out through bushes. And how many people would see that? First, he really was very exceptional to have done it.
Gutfeld made a big deal of him getting the interview instead of Hannity. He was like, "Take that, Hannity. It's mine. This time I get to talk to him." And it was really good. It was really good for him to do that. And Trump, for his sake, I think a lot of this came to him because it's his final decision whether or not to do shows like this. But it was from his family members. Barron was very influential on this, and him going on these influencer shows and these podcasts, which is where most people are going these days, that talk to a younger audience. Good for Trump for agreeing to do it and lightening up a little bit and reaching a different sector of the voting community, because let's face it, he's going to need it. And also good for people in his inner circle and getting him to do those kinds of things. Would he have done Gutfeld, 4 years ago? Yeah, probably. If the show was established at the time. Would he have done those kinds of podcasts and live stream events, though? I don't know if he would have, unless members of his family hadn't kind of gotten him aware of those things. All right, away from Trump for a second. I know this is a lot of politics, but we're like less than 50 days to the election, so it's a lot of stuff. Good news is we got a new Kamala accent that dropped yesterday. Yeah, we got a new one. I think we're up to 4 now. We got the original, the original Kamala. You know what? We'll be unburdened by what is and what has been. The original Kamala and the cackling. We already know that, which I guess counts as an accent. But then we had something interesting popping up a couple of weeks ago. She was talking to, the inner community voters, and all of a sudden she had a very, very urban accent, where she was like sister girl accent. Got a new one. got a new Kamala accent to drop. This may be the best one of all. It's quick, but she actually reiterated this one. Are you ready for Kamala Latina accent? Because it actually happened yesterday. You ready?
I love you back.
Oh, I love you back. I love you. I love you so much. I love you back. Oh, mi amor. Oh, I love you back. And she did it a couple of times. She's got the potential to have like 10 different accents. I love it. I love that she actually did it. Good for you, Kamala. Keep on going. Gives us material and grist for the mill. All right, this happened too. And this is actually, I know, I get it. We're going back to all things Trump on this, but we're back to, this is one of those telltale signs where you know that Trump is actually leading in the polls where it matters, not just Teamster endorsements. Like, they have the internal polls within these campaigns, and they realize that, you know, things may not be looking so good in the traditional voter blocks with the Democrats could always count on before. You know, areas like Long Island, yeah. The attacks on Melania are out again. About the, you know, we were away from those. It's been like 3.5 years. Haven't heard those in a long time, but they're back again. The attacks on her past, her modeling career, how her, remember the red Christmas trees she had set up in the White House? Oh, they're mentioning those again. Again, this is a lady who is a supermodel, like one of the top models in that industry. Not one fashion magazine cover while Trump was in office, or since. Not one since he came down the golden escalator. Not one. This lady was top of the top in the fashion industry. Not one. Jill Biden got a Vogue cover a couple of months ago. That actually happened, but not Melania. The attacks on her against again. They always go to the obvious, right? Well, she was, how can you have a first lady in the White House that was a nude model? Now, granted, this has also popped up again because Melania has come out with her autobiography where she talks about this stuff. And there's a lot of audio clips from the audio version of it. And she talks about and addresses this. Excuse me. The issue of her nude modeling because it's back again. Very interesting take on this. And here's what she said.
Why do I stand proudly behind my nude modeling work? The more pressing question is, why has the media chosen to scrutinize my celebration of the human forum in a fashion photo shoot?
Well, I can tell you, Melania, Madam First Lady, because most of the people criticizing you on that are ugly and they are joyless and they'll use any angle they possibly can to attack you. They haven't even started in on Barron yet. You know they will. Now that he's 18 and going to college in New York, you know they will. They're just despicable. There's no way they won't attack that. Of course they're going to attack Melania on that. And she's right about that too. Because this just isn't a fight for, obviously, the economy. You know, obviously people's lives, putting bread and butter on the table. It's very simple. Just get to the economy, stupid. That's what it's all about. There is a cultural thing going on too where it's like, you know, this rage against beauty, the feminine, beauty that way. It was her personal choice to actually do those. And she made a career out of it and a lot of money on her own, by the way. Let's not forget about that. And made a name for herself and eventually met Trump and became first lady. Good for her. But she's right. There has been an attack on the human body. And all of this started with the don't attack, don't body shame, don't do that, which you shouldn't do anyway. And you shouldn't be a bully. But yeah, there actually is an attack on the traditional female beautiful form. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm glad she came out and said that. Didn't have to. She's been attacked enough. I don't know. When he gets in again, is she going to actually spend any time in the Washington White House? Will she actually be there, or will she be at the Southern White House at Mar-a-Lago? Why would you even do it? It was miserable for her. It was constant attacks for no reason whatsoever and disrespect. I wouldn't spend a moment in there unless I had to, for events and special occasions and things in the Rose Garden. That's about it. I don't know. All right, here's today's bizarre news, and it's not funny, but you got to laugh at this and how this actually happened. To get out of politics for a second. And I was on the plane coming back home yesterday, and I saw the story. And I did laugh in a, oh my God, that's terrible kind of way. It's from the UK. This is from Sky News, and I'll just give you the headline for a second. Loner stabbed himself to death. Oh no. Trying to separate two frozen burger patties. And I was scrolling through X and I saw this and I said, excuse me? Well, yeah, I'm going to read that story more. Absolutely. You've drawn me in, Sky News. And I'm interested in that. Here's how it all went down. A UK guy stabbed himself to death while trying to separate two frozen burgers with a knife in a freakish accident. Now, think about frozen burger patties if you've ever had those, like Bubba burgers, you know, the big Texas ones, the thick ones. Really, any frozen patty. if you didn't do this correctly, you could totally see how this happened, right? A police investigation went on. They said there was no signs that the guy was depressed or anything else. He was described as very private. He had been gone for quite some time, though, before they found him, which is unfortunate. There was evidence, and they put this thing together by the rest of the frozen patties that weren't frozen anymore that were actually on the kitchen area. Now, here's the part. This is all I can think of since I found this. And you know, it's so funny that some stories just stick out in your mind. This was one of them for me because all I could think of was, and the guy's name, hold on, I got to get this. The guy's name is Barry. For the rest of eternity, posthumously, you know how they're going to remember Barry? And he may have had a great life. He may have like coached kids at soccer, football. He might have like given to charities. Maybe he was a veteran. I don't know. No, he's going to be remembered as the guy that stabbed himself trying to cook a hamburger. That is just, man, that's terrible. You know, it's like, oh, remember Barry? No, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. He was a guy who lived down next to the bacon. No. He was a guy that stabbed himself trying to have some hamburgers. Oh, yeah. For his whole rest of eternity. That's this guy's legacy. So sad. Poor Barry. Man, think about that. Boy, if you go someday, you hope it's not something embarrassing. All right. I promised you this, and I love you guys for a lot of people have chimed in with different events because I kind of teased this. I said, I've seen enough. I've heard enough. 2 weeks now, I think 2 weeks of a live stream experiment. You're going well. Your reaction has been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing this along with me. It's too much fun not to do. And quite frankly, there's too much going on in news not to talk about it and have some fun with it and talk ourselves through these insane, crazy times. So despite the ramifications, whatever they may be, we're going to turn this into a full-on podcast. If you do that in a podcast version and then send it out to different social media streams, you have to name it, is what you have to do. And I am at a loss to figure out what to name this thing. It's not a show. Remember, it's not a show. So I just kind of mentioned that briefly yesterday. And by Monday, we'll figure out what this is. But a couple of days to go. Eileen, I love you for suggesting these, Eileen. I appreciate it so much because they've been coming in, like 4 or 5 of you like chimed in one at a time, different ideas. I told you, like my buddy says, hot takes and pancakes. No, we're not. What's wrong with you? We're not calling it that. But Eileen sent this into, I think it was ChatGPT, but she said it was AI, and she came up with these ideas. She says, and she reached out to me. She said, here's some podcast name ideas for Bill Adams. This was through the AI. The Adams Angle. Politics with a punch. Interesting. Spin and Grin with Bill Adams. Hold on a second. That sounds like a porn title. I don't know about that one, though. Quick takes and hotcakes. What is it with you guys and the hotcakes? No, we're not doing that. Bill's biting banter. I like the alliteration. It's a lot of one in there. I don't know. Something we can work with. An idea starter. Eileen, I love you. Thank you so much for sending that in. I love that. We'll come up with some different ideas. I'm getting something I can't mention too that people are telling me. Oh God, mostly from my family members. People are out of your minds, but I love you for suggesting. We'll come up with this more ideas. We're going to narrow this down tomorrow. I think I'm going to have something to announce for you, and then Monday we'll figure this whole thing out. But it's been too fun not to do so far. It's probably going to be the same amount. Most of these almost daily podcasts that talk about current events are, if you check on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, they're about this 20, 25 minutes long. It's about that, just to go through it. Just try to condense, because that's about, honestly, what the average morning drive is. And, you know, if you watch it later, it's not too long, it's not too short. So that's what we're aiming for. And we'll bring on guests, too, as we go along here, because we can split the screen and talk to some people on some stuff. But I'm not going to stop. It's too much fun. Small right now, but growing. And I love you for it. All right. Have a great day. This is the only time I swear on the show, too, because this is my little saying. Take on the day with a shit-eating grin and a can-do attitude. I'm going to get things done. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Tomorrow's a big Friday day. Made it through another week, so thanks for being here. We'll talk to you.